But what I'm saying is, could you prove me wrong that God isn't real?
Which God? Which God?
God, like God Himself, like God the Father, the
Which
Creator
one?
of
What
everything on
do
the
you
planet.
think God is good? All good?
100%.
Why is there evil then? If God is all good, why is there evil?
Because a God that forces, God gave us free will, and God loves us so much that He gave us free will instead of dictating every aspect of our life. The evil in this world is because, you know this better than, or you know this like everybody. Humans are pervasive, and greed and evilness is
Yeah.
in every
Why did
human.
God make us this way? Why didn't God just make us good
He
from the
did.
get go?
He did. He made us good, but then we sinned against Him. So in reality, we
Yeah,
technically
but
should all get
why
wiped
didn't God
off.
make
But
us?
he,
Why didn't God make us good such that we would never sin?
because the whole long term, you could look at it from Christianity, you could look at it Muslim, you could look at Judaism. He had a long term plan of us coming back and meeting with Him in heaven. So with Judaism, it's the chosen people, the Jews.
Yeah. So
Muslims, it's
why
you
didn't
go to
God just make
God.
us? Why didn't God just make us in heaven from the beginning? Why did He have to even make Earth at all? It's a waste of time.
But the thing is like I completely understand, like it doesn't make any sense to us, but at the same time, like someone who created everything, of course it's going to be outside of our grasps. Regardless what side you believe on, it's going to be nonstop outside of your grasp.
Yeah, but look at what you're doing, right? What you're doing is you're making all these claims, these bold claims. Oh, God made us with all these things, and there's all this evil because God made us with free will and all these things. When I'm just simply saying, look, shit happens. That's
Yeah.
atheism. Yeah. Shit happens and shit exists. I don't need all
So
that shit.
wait,
Your
so
stuff. You're
so
giving
would
us
you
right.
say you're like
So
agnostic, or would you
hold
say
on,
you're atheist? Sorry.
hold on. It's way more simpler and parsimonious to suggest shit just exists. And that's atheism. I don't need any of that other stuff. And
So
that's
wait,
why
are you
adding all
atheist?
those other stories and all that stuff seems ridiculous.
So are you atheist?
Yes, I'm an atheist.
Okay. So like you obviously believe in, like, you know ball of rock, water, and then over millions of years, amino acids formed, then amino acids turned into DNA, then DNA turned into, like, organisms, then
We don't just
blah blah
believe
blah
this.
blah blah.
This is evidence. There's lots of evidence of life,
Have you seen
how life produces.
so where do you think the universe came from? Nothing? Like the Big Bang, there was nothing?
That's the wrong question. The universe didn't have to come from somewhere, right? It could have always existed.
But then that alone contradicts your opinions of, like, presupposing that it already existed. Like, it had to come from somewhere.
Where did God come from then?
But that's the thing, is he is outside of all space and time.
Well, he had to come from somewhere, right? Is that what you're suggesting? It had to come from somewhere?
Well, no, what I'm saying is I'm
Oh,
not saying God had to come from somewhere, because he
okay. So then
himself
why does the universe
is.
have to come from somewhere?
Well, then why are you, like, what are you saying?
It was always there.
Touche. You can say that, but in the same way, it's like
Okay.
I say the same thing. So, like, what makes your point more accurate than my point?
Well, you have universe plus God plus all those other things. All I have is
And you just
universe.
have universe.
That seems way more
Okay, so how
parsimonious. It
does
seems
that?
like a simpler idea.
That's just a
Explains
very,
everything
like,
just as well.
say again.
Atheism is far simpler, far more parsimonious, and explains everything that you say.
Okay, well, with the origin of life on Earth, what do you think happened?
Amazing things happened. We have the
Life.
production of the synthesis of amino acids in
Have
interstellar
you
gas
seen the
clouds. They
test
condense.
where they with the amino acid,
I'm
like where they
sorry.
tried to see if they could? Have you seen where they have, like, put all the proper, like, minerals and elements into a dish and tried to do the lightning experience, where, like, oh, if a lightning struck just right, then amino acids would form and blah 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 blah,
Yes, the million array
and
experiment,
they
very
proved.
famous experiment which demonstrates
Yeah,
amino
but they
acids in very
proved.
organic
I don't know,
molecules.
but if you actually
Hold
read
on, sir.
into it,
Hold on,
I'm just
hold on.
mid sentence.
Relax, relax, take a breath, relax.
Sorry, it's cold in
Yes,
my room.
we have the Miller-Urey experiment, which demonstrates amino acids form with basic gases that are found in the early Earth atmosphere. It's
Mm.
obvious how life began. It's obvious. No biologist questions this. Now, we don't have all the details, but we don't need every detail, just like you don't have every detail of your God.
So
So
that's what I'm saying. So then what makes, considering that, I don't have every detail and you don't have every detail, what makes your detail, you know,
because we have
like what
more
makes your point
details
more
and we
accurate?
have because we have more details plus less different hypotheses clumped into one. And that's why it's far better of an explanation just to suggest that scientifically, physically, these things occurred rather than making up some story that we now know is ridiculous. Talking snakes, talking donkeys. That stuff has been long debunked.
Okay. But then, okay, well then this I guess brings me to like, so you believe that you are just matter, and then when you die, it's just the game over. That's it. You think you are nothing
That's what it seems to
more than
be.
just
That's
that.
what it seems to be.
But you think you are nothing more than just that. So like when you like love somebody, that's all that is chemicals in your brain. That's it. The love you feel for your mom, your significant other, your dad, your kids, whatever, is just, this is just chemicals in my brain. That's it.
Yeah, but look at how you phrase the question. You're like, that's just it, as if
No,
because of the
exactly.
medium in
That's
which
just it. In your logic, that's
hold on. The way you phrase the question, you have injected some kind of value judgment. You're suggesting that it's bad, that we're just molecules. But the problem is that yeah, we are molecules, but look at what these molecules can do. They can generate love. They can generate thoughts, feelings, emotions, life experience. That's amazing. And I don't need to inject a kind of God like being to make this any more incredible than it is. So, why must you do this? Suggest, oh, you're just chemicals. Chemicals are bad. They're great. There's something that can do great things.
okay. But like what I mean, like I didn't mean that in the sense of like, oh, you're just chemicals. But like with that argument, or like with that, it just seems so demeaning to like, human nature in general. Just to be like, the feelings I feel for my wife is just, you know, synapses in my brain and like dopamine flooding my brain every time I see her. When in reality, like, or not in reality, I'll just say like, when in my mind, it's like, it seems like it's so much more than just that. Like love and
What
affection and
what
like those feelings we feel aren't just like,
I
that's
understand
it.
I understand you have the feeling that there's something more happening there, but that's what those chemicals are doing. Those chemicals themselves can generate when they work together systematically, they can generate the sense of awe and wonder that we get when we understand this. So the thing you've described is explained because of the chemicals you're trying to demean. Um, but also, why does the medium in which we exist matter? Let's say you're right and we're made of some kind of immaterial. Love is some kind of immaterial substance
Like
or
there's a soul.
immaterial thing. Why does that make it more precious? Why does immaterialness make love better than material love?
Well, because, well, I mean, like, think about this. Like, if someone gave you a car, you wouldn't love the car more than the person that gave you the car. And like, I feel like with the love, like, yeah, you could argue it's like a material love, like, oh, I love the person, but I don't love, like my wife, like, she could blow up in a car crash and like, she's gone. She's cremated, gone. No more material there left over. But I still love her. Like, I love her being and the person she is.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
so like you believe there's no like soul, like there's no, none of that.
Yet, and the fact that there is no afterlife makes this precious life all that more precious because it's all we got. And under your view, we live forever. So if your spouse does, God forbid, die, you'll see her again. That is a bit demeaning relative to this life, where our lives are so much more precious, and there's we ought to cherish it more because it's all we get. And
Well,
that's why
that's a good point on cherishing
that's
life.
why I think atheism is a far better sense of appreciation for the world versus, oh, we get another chance at this. And all love is, under your paradigm, is a test to see how well we can be slave to God. I mean, what's more important, love of your wife or love of, or worshiping your God?
Well, me personally, uh, my God is love, so worshiping and like obeying my God. But the thing is, like Christianity in general isn't what everyone seems to think it is, where you have to do
If
everything
I
right
asked you what
or
was
you're
more
gonna
important, right? What was more important, loving your wife or loving God? What's more important?
loving God 100%.
Right.
Because at the
So
end of the
under
day,
your
because at the
view,
end of the
so
day,
under your
God won't
view,
ever.
you so under
Because at the
your
end of the
view,
day, God won't ever fail me. My wife will fail me. My kids will fail me. Every human will fail me because they're
that's
fallible.
something that hold on, sir. Hold on. I understand. But that's something that you have set your own standard for, right? You've created your own standard in your mind and said, "Oh, God never fails me." Whatever that means, when you're missing the fact that you have a wife and it might be the only wife you'll get. And you see, if you're trying to attack the merits of atheism, well, you better
I'm
come
not.
equipped with some kind of something that can defeat it. Because as far as I'm concerned, loving my wife, loving family is far more important than worshiping some all powerful, perfect being who doesn't need that in the first place.
But why wouldn't he need that in the first place?
Because he's perfect without any of us.
But if you were okay, but the thing is like with your kids, don't you wish you like say you have kids, wouldn't you wish your kids loved you and showed love and respect to you?
But I wouldn't demand it and
I know
punish them if
that's
they didn't
the
love me.
exact
Oh,
same
okay, so
thing. Like
there's a
this
difference.
goes
There's a
back to your
difference.
point. Like earlier where you were like, well then why does God like let bad things happen? Because he loves us so much, he doesn't demand it. Same with your kids. Like if your kid wants to go run off and do like crack and like become a pimp, you're not gonna enjoy it, but like
What's the
you're
punishment?
still gonna
What's the punishment if I do not worship God?
the punishment of not worshiping God is, well, in Christianity, nothing. It's only if you believe. You can worship God as much as you want. You can worship him, but as long as you don't believe if you don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God and died for our sins, then you're not going to heaven.
Right.
Judaism, you
So
just don't
you
believe in
so
God, you're
the
not going to
punishment
heaven.
for not believing in God is eternal torture.
No,
Imagine if I
it's
told
not.
did that to my children.
That's the misconception. In the Christian, or I don't know what it is in the Muslim or Jewish faith, but in the Christian faith, not believing in like God or Jesus per se isn't damnation to hellfire and brimstone. It's just lights out. That's it. Eternal separation from God.
That's
So
it. Lights out. Oh, that's far
kind of
better
what like
than that's far better than eternal torture. But the problem remains, right? Imagine if I told my
what?
kids, if you don't believe in me, you're just gonna die. I'm
Okay.
gonna send you to die. Is that something that we ought to
Yeah, but you're not.
teach our
But
children?
like you're not
No.
a God
Why does it matter if I'm a god or not a god? What does it matter?
because we're infallible humans, or we're
Why
fallible
does that?
humans
Why does
versus an
that matter?
infallible God.
Why does that deserve worship, or else?
What?
Why does being infallible deserve worship inherently?
Because like it's not necessarily that he's even infallible. It's more of the fact that he created everything around us.
Why does that deserve worship? Well, let's
What?
say this was a simulation, and there's a nerd behind the simulation. Should we
Yeah.
worship the nerd? Oh, worship nerd! Thank you for making our simulation.
Well, it
That seems
depends. I
silly.
mean,
That
like,
seems a bit silly.
okay. I mean, I respect your opinion. In all honesty, I do. And yes, I agree. Like from one point of angle, it can seem like it's silly, but to some people, it's not. And if you look back on the entirety of like the like Abrahamic faiths, whether it's the big three, they've all looked to God as the creator. And in my heart, I know, like I've personally felt and experienced him. And you could say, oh, well, that's just something in your brain, your chemicals in your brain. But I don't know how to explain it, if that makes sense. It's the same way as like,
If you can't, I agree. If you can't explain it, then you can't explain it. It doesn't mean therefore God, right? And look, I'm not here to dismiss your experience. I'm sure you had an experience, just as I have many experiences in my life that I still can't explain today. But it doesn't give you the right or justification to suggest that it was this or that. You don't know what it was, and without further investigation, you don't know. You'll never know. So we got
well,
to
then
stop.
same with you. I could literally, if you just like, if we were on two different sides, like you were on Team God and I was on Team God is imaginary, and I just said the exact, or you just said the exact same thing to me. Like, you don't, like, we, like, at the end of the day, none of us know. We're all here. Could be one, could not be one. That's
I
the thing.
agree. Ultimately speaking, none of us really know. But the problem is that we are doing a hypothesis analysis. Where you're suggesting something exists, I'm suggesting something else exists, and we're comparing these two hypotheses. And as far as logic is concerned, we deal with things that are simple. They're explanatory, right? In terms of your hypothesis, you have to add so many different things to it, so many baseless claims, so many unfalsifiable claims, things we can't determine are true or false. You have to add all these theodicies, you have to add all these different notions and properties that I don't have to. And that's why, yes, we don't have absolute knowledge, but we can go based on what's the simplest explanation for the world around us. And as far as I'm concerned, an atheistic world in which shit just happens deterministically seems far more parsimonious than God made us out of clay in 6 days and with the ark and had the animals go across and he made us with free will, but then he took it away. Then he had to come down to die for us. And then 2 days later, he came back, went to heaven, became king of the world. And then he's still watching us today and we're all sinners still. We have to keep worshiping until we die. And if we die, we get more life with him to worship more and more and more. And he's perfect, by the way. He's perfect and he's all powerful, but this all had to happen. This is all part of his plan. Trust me. That seems a bit less parsimonious than just shit happens.
Okay. But, like, so this was, like, I used to be an atheist for a long time, or, like, agnostic or,
Mhm.
middle ground type deal. But the thing that, like, when you think about it, like, think of the whole thing like Big Bang or the universe has always been here, or even just evolution in general, or like the creation of life on this planet in general. Both versions of, there was nothing and then there was an explosion. And then over billions of years, planets came to be, stars formed, gas, blah, 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 blah. And then we, crawled out of the primordial soup. And then, dinosaurs, shrews, monkeys, us, whatever. Both. And then the other one, God
That's
created
a
the days.
that's a caricature.
Both of them.
That's a very
Huh?
strong caricature of what I was suggesting. First of all, that's
No,
not.
I'm not done. Can I finish, please? What I'm saying is both equally, in my eyes, are both equally as insane if you think about it.
I beg to differ because we actually have evidence and experiments that back up the things we believe in science, and no evidence to back up
Okay.
anything you believe.
Do you think
So first
what
of all,
about Jesus of Nazareth?
let me address your previous claim first. You claim that the Big Bang means nothing and explosion. That's not the Big Bang.
What?
The Big Bang
That's not what
isn't
I
nothing.
said. I was just making a simple, like, I didn't want to get, like, I wasn't getting into the detail. I was just saying
Okay.
from
So
nothing.
then what you've just done is you've committed a question begging. I'm sorry, question begging. You've committed a fallacy, logical fallacy, by suggesting that this
You did
is all
with,
my
like, when you were
position
talking
means. It's
about
a straw
faith
man.
earlier.
You've committed a
What?
straw
I
man
was
fallacy,
just
sir.
Okay, man. What I'm saying is strongman fallacy or not. All I was saying is I was literally just making just a general speech about from like what, Big Bang to now. Just general. Didn't care if I got it wrong. I was just making a
Look,
point,
look, look,
okay?
look. I understand your point. The problem is that if you just simply understood the science, it wouldn't be so insane to you. If you understood the actual evidence of the experiments, you'd actually recognize that it's very, very accurate based on what we observe, right? That's how science works. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's insane. Um, there's no
what do you
evidence
think
of an
about
ark or Jesus rising from the
there
dead.
is
There's no evidence
evidence
of
of Jesus.
that. Rising. There's evidence of him
I know,
rising
but
from
there's
the dead. Like,
evidence. I mean, well, why isn't there evidence of Jesus rising? Because there's over 400 to 500 eyewitnesses, and then there's also written accounts. There's even a famous Jewish scholar from 60 years, so 60 AD, he died in 30, so 30 years after, writing an account about how the tomb was empty. Like, they say Jesus rose and the tomb is empty. I'm just saying it. He's not saying he rose or not. He's just saying it could have happened. I don't
so
know.
first of all, no, there are no contemporary accounts for the resurrection other than the
What do you
Gospels,
mean?
which are orally have been orally passed down for decades before they were written down in the book, and they themselves are dated, actually, decades after the fact. Uh, the witnesses you claim
Wait.
to have. Hold on. The
No, no, I was
witnesses you
just
claim to
I'm
have.
clarifying your last point just so I can. What was
Let
say
me
it again?
finish. Let me finish my last point. The witnesses you claim to have are not actual witnesses. They're claims of witnesses that, by the way, come from the same book you're claiming is evidence of the God that you believe in. So you're using a story as evidence. That's like me using Dr. Seuss as evidence of a cat in the hat.
So you're saying the books in the Bible. Obviously, you can be like, "Oh, well, it's one book." Okay. Well, it's 66 books. But what I'm saying is with so you're saying the eyewitness accounts and it was when it was written, the letters were written was in 60 AD. Okay, so 30 years after he passed, written by his disciples are not
We don't
like
know who
literal
wrote them.
firsthand I handwritten by the disciples are
We
not
don't know who wrote the Gospels. We don't know who wrote them. They're anonymous.
well, not all of them.
All
Acts, well,
all
okay,
of
if you're
them.
talking
They're
about
all
Matthew, Mark,
anonymous.
Luke, and John, then technically you
Yes.
could say that they are anonymous. But if you look at Acts, you look at Corinthians, you look at Ephesians, you look at Galatians, they're all written by Paul, who wrote them in 60 to 69 AD.
And what does that do it for your claim? It's
He
coming again
met
from the
he met
same
and
source.
knew
It's coming again from the
he
same
met and
source.
knew. Huh?
It's coming from the same source that's making the claim of the fact.
What? What do you mean? It's coming from the same source of people that
Yes,
met and walked with Jesus
we don't know
and
if
are
they walked
claiming
with
that he rose
Jesus.
from the dead?
These are claims you are taking from a storybook
Well, no,
2,000
there's
years
Roman.
ago.
No, there's it's okay. Well, what? Then how is Aristotle? Then how can you take Aristotle's writings or works or Galileo's at all at anything more than
Because
face
we
value?
have Galileo's writings. We actually have them. We actually have his books.
Yeah, we
We
actually
don't
have
have
the
anything
writings
of
of Paul.
Jesus. We don't have anything of Jesus.
What
We don't
about all
have.
the Roman documents? The Roman documents recording his imprisonment, his crucifixion, his multiple run-ins
I'm not talking about
when the
the person
Sadducees
existing.
ran
I'm
him
talking about
versus
the
the
guy
debate.
resurrecting. Resurrecting. I'll grant you that he existed. Let's just say this guy existed. But did he resurrect like a god? That's the claim that has to be backed by evidence. So far, there's zero.
But the thing is I'm telling you evidence, and yet you're just dismissing it by well, actually, that's not true because there's not actually a fully peer written, peer reviewed thing. When all of the so Matt Gospels, okay, sure, we'll throw those out. All right, but then you look at everything Paul wrote. Okay, he was a high ranking Jewish member, prosecuting Christians, obviously, and then he has a coming to Christ moment. Literally meets God, goes blind, and then
But how do
he
we
gets his
know
sight
that these things actually happened?
because there's not just Christianity backing this up, but there's also Jewish text written and still in the same scrolls, real scrolls,
In
not
the
just
same
passed down
story.
word
The
of mouth.
same story. It's the
What?
same story that's making the claim. Do you see how circular it is?
The same. No, I'm not talking about the claim anymore. I'm talking about the conversion of Paul, from Saul of Tarsus to Paul. That is a documented, multiple sources. They still have the scrolls. Okay, so the real paper written. Okay, or papyrus or whatever you want to say, written. Still have those. They still have Paul's original texts and manuscripts. Okay, still have those. Okay, and
But
he himself physically.
what does this demonstrate?
I'm telling you.
You have
I'm
a
telling
text.
you.
Anybody can write a
Hmm?
text, right? Just like Dr. Seuss can write a text about about Dr.
Okay,
Cat
well,
in the Hat.
then what? Then I'm lost. Then I'm lost. Then what?
We
What
have
made
no extra
Galileo's
biblical
writings?
sources.
What made Galileo's writing like? Like
What?
I'm confused. They're the like what made his
The
more
difference is that
valid?
Galileo actually had something that he wrote that we could test. What you have demonstrated to us is that we can't test anything in the story. How do we test these experiences that Paul had? How do we test the resurrection? You can't. It's a story that could be written by anybody with a pen.
But it's you're right. You're right. But it's also pertaining to a topic that's not just math and numbers and science. That's the other thing is it's a topic beyond all of that.
I don't
The
understand your point.
immaterial. What
What's
so like with
immaterial?
Galileo's, Galileo, one of his works, like all of his writings, you can, math. You can literally prove them with math and experience or experiments.
Okay, yeah.
With the Bible and all of like Paul's texts and stuff, they're not pertaining to math experience or experiments where you can test them physically.
That's
They're pertaining to
precisely the problem. That's the problem.
but they're pertaining to the immaterial. And I guess this is the schism between me and you. Is I believe there's an
Okay, well, so
immaterial,
is
you
Dr.
don't.
Seuss. So is Cat in the Hat immaterial. I mean, what do you what else do you have to offer that's extra biblical that we can test that can prove that these claims happen or demonstrate they happen with
I mean,
any certainty? Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, we're both chasing our own tails and like trying.
I don't think so. I think that what you're
Well,
doing
no,
is
the
you're
thing
trying to
is
justify your belief in God by
and you're
suggesting this
justifying
guy wrote it.
yours. And I know, but you're justifying yours in the and not in the belief of God. And we're both just going back and forth. And at the end of the day,
What am I?
neither of us are being right.
What claim am I making that I cannot test or demonstrate with any degree of certainty?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is you can test and
Okay,
demonstrate however much you want, but at the end of the day, we already went there. Neither of us know the answer. You can say you do, I can say I do, but at
but
the end of the day, we're only
that's
going to find out
look
once we
look
die.
look. I agree that we don't have 100% certainty, but we don't need 100% certainty, right? We can have 60 or 70% certainty about things and be still justified in that claim. So suggesting that we don't know, therefore God's real, is a terrible inference. I can say that for anything. Oh, we don't know everything, so let's just say Bigfoot. Let's say Loch Ness Monster, because we don't know
I
everything. We'll
know
never
that's
know.
I agree. I agree with you.
That's
But
a
at the end of
silly
the day, like,
reasoning.
I know it's a silly reasoning, whatever you
Okay.
want to say. But at
So
the end
then
of the
look
day,
how I do this is this. How I think is this. What can we observe? What can we experiment with? What can we demonstrate? And I base my hypothesis on those data sets. And then I build up from there. I keep going. That's how science works. That's it. It's that simple. You observe, you jot down the notes, and you test it. And you repeat over and over and over until you build a map of reality that maps onto what we observe. What you're doing is you have a map and you're going, this must fit reality. And you're forcing the map onto reality. It must force, it must fit. It's in it, it says so. That's what you're doing. Where you have the reverse kind of reasoning. And that's why I'm skeptical of what you're positing here. It's not convincing to somebody who understands basic science.
did you mute me on accident, bro?
No,
Oh,
that was not an accident.
okay. Oh, nice. That was actually funny. Um, Fair. Whatever you want to believe, whatever I want to believe. I'm glad you have a cordial conversation because, like, at the end of the day, like,
Mhm.
it is what I want to believe and it's what you want to believe. And you can,
I understand that you have the right to believe what you want to believe, but Why would you want to believe whatever you want? I don't want to just believe what I want to believe. I want to believe what's true. I want to
And
believe
I
what's
believe what's
factual.
true. And
Oh,
at the
okay,
end of the
but
day, like you
so
can
then,
throw
so
all
then,
these
why do you
facts and you can
suggest
throw
I
all
believe
these
really
numbers
believe
and
what?
data sets or whatever you want at me. But at the end of the day,
Okay.
when like we both, close our eyes for the last time, I know where I'm going, so I'm frankly not scared.
Well, you haven't shown that at all today. You can claim it.
Well, I
I
don't
agree,
have
you can
to.
claim it, but you haven't shown that that's the case.
Huh?
You haven't made a compelling case.
Well, I don't have to. It's more of a personal relationship at the end of the day. Because what I say, someone else could have something completely different, but I know where my beliefs lie
Okay,
and I know where I'm going at the
well
end of
then
the day.
I can't help you if we can't progress forward if all you're going to do is say, "Well, I just believe it on my own terms." Why even come up here? Um, so I can't help you if you just have a personal experience and you don't want to talk about it further. You don't, and you just going to believe whatever you want. I can't help you.
No, I feel that.
Okay,
Either way, it's 2 in the morning here. Don't know what time it is for you, but I'm backing out. Good talk.
no problem. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's 2 a.m. Where are you? How is it 2 a.m.? Thank you, Stephanie. I've matured. The UK, it's 2 a.m.? Really? Oh, yeah, you're right. He didn't sound like he's from the UK. Why is nobody connecting? What's going on here? Isn't it nice to be in a live where you don't have to hear "thank you for the gifts" every 2 seconds? Don't you love it? I don't even care about gifts. I have a gift for you, critical thinking. That's my gift to you. Something's not going on here correctly. I don't know why the live isn't working right now. Can anybody hear the guest? It worked. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How's it going?
Great.
Um, so I don't know. I think I had a similar kind of comment to the previous guest, but earlier on, and I don't think he followed through with it very much, or they followed through with it very much. Um, so you're making a positive claim, right, about that God is imaginary. I guess negative, depending on how you describe how you view it. Um, I don't know how one makes claims about immaterial things, right? Like assuming that this is a supernatural God of some kind. How does one know things about immaterial objects?
Well, we're making a case against God based on your definition of God. If you claim that God is all powerful or all good, all loving, and I can somehow point to a contradiction there or a logical problem with that, then that's evidence against God, right? So whether or not it's immaterial or material doesn't matter. As long as we have a counter argument, that can perhaps render it unlikely, then that's evidence against God and problem of evil, the problem of divine hiddenness,
Okay.
evil
Yeah.
God.
So,
There's many different problems that God has, specific
so
versions of it.
problem of evil, omnipotence, etc., is all, I think, as fixing God to be a particular thing and then attacking that thing. But I kind of want to keep the discussion a bit general before diving into some specific conception. And I don't know. I think it's not unreasonable to say that at least one property is immaterialness. Not being directly material. It exists. Some people say existing outside of space and time, etc. I think those are relatively not controversial attributions of God. And so, so your life says God is imaginary, right? So this is in terms of how do we know whether something that's immaterial exists or not? I just want to know what's even the benchmark. And it doesn't need to be specific about God, just any
I don't understand
immaterial
your
thought you have.
question. I don't understand your question. You're asking me for reasons why God doesn't exist?
I'm asking, how do we know things about the immaterial world? How does one know or not know things about
I don't claim to know things about the image. I reject that immaterial exists.
everything?
No, I reject the immaterial
No, I
exists.
know, I know.
I don't
I
know what
mean, you
that
don't believe in
means.
any immaterial claim at all? What about like math?
I don't know. Well, math is a language, which in itself is a product of the brain, and which is a physical thing.
Do you think that
The
if there
mind
were
is
no
physical.
brains, would 1 + 1 = 2? Is that still true or no?
So, good
I'm not
question.
trying to
But
catch you, by the way. I'm just asking to further understand what you
right,
mean.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, mathematics is, like I just alluded to, a language. And when we talk about mathematical systems, we're talking about definitional statements. Like 1 + 1 = 2, that's a definitional statement because 1 is defined as something and 2 is defined as something else. And there's a relationship between those that we can describe through these within a mathematical framework. And 1 + 1 = 2, that's an analytical notion.
Do you think
So
that
it
one
is
plus
true
one
by
equals
definition.
two?
Hold on.
Sorry.
So
Okay.
that means it's true by definition, which means it is something the brain can generate, and it does not exist somewhere in a real sense in the universe. It's just what the brain is doing in here. And so that's why math, in my eyes, is descriptive, not prescriptive of the universe. It's just a physical activity in the brain.
Okay. Do you think that 1 + 1 = 2 is the same kind of statement as like Harry Potter wears glasses? You think those are like equivalent kind of statements?
No, now you're talking about synthetic notions, right? Synthetic notions, it's an umbrella term for things like empirical claims like glasses exist or Harry Potter exists. Um, those are different. Now you're talking about things that are not true by
Wait,
definition.
Harry Potter's not a real person, right? So this is not empirical. There's no experiment I can do to see if Harry Potter has glasses or not, right? Like it's a claim within a system, right? The Harry Potter canon or whatever. So I'm asking, do you think the statement Harry Potter wears glasses is the same kind of statement as 1 + 1 = 2? I don't think they're empirical at all.
Well, I think what you're suggesting is that, yeah, there is an empirical aspect to that question. Is Harry Potter wearing glasses? It depends on what you mean by Harry Potter. If you're starting with the framework that Harry Potter is not a real thing, well, then yeah, that would be an analytical notion. It depends on the framework. Water bottles, things that actually are
Wait,
tangible,
wait. Sorry.
empirical.
So a guy in a
Those
story,
are
right? Like,
synthetic claims. Then there's analytical claims.
yeah, like Harry Potter, the guy we both know, right? The guy in the story that J.K. Rowling wrote. I don't need to. I hope you understand that I'm not talking about a physical person called Harry Potter, right? Like,
If you're starting with something that doesn't actually exist empirically, then that's an analytical claim.
okay, so is the claim that he's wearing glasses, is that the same kind of claim as 1 + 1 = 2?
Harry Potter has wearing glasses. Yes, that would be true by definition. If your definition of Harry Potter is somebody called Harry Potter who wears glasses, yes.
Okay, I don't know if I want to keep going on this train because I still don't think we quite mean the same thing. Because I agree it's true, but I think gravity's existing is also true, but they're different kind of statements. I'm trying to
Yes,
differentiate between
one
different
is
kinds of
empirical,
statements.
one is not empirical.
Yeah, but so Harry Potter not wearing glasses is not an empirical question, and 1 + 1 = 2 is not an empirical
Right,
question.
because
Right?
your
They're both not.
definition of Harry Potter is something that is by definition not empirical, right? So that's why it's just a separate way of analyzing
But
claims.
but but do you see why I think this is kind of important? Because it's kind of arbitrary whether Harry Potter wears glasses or not. Whereas I think 1 + 1 = 2 is not arbitrary in the same way. I think that, like, had I said, for example, 1 + 1 = 3, and I got everyone in the world to agree with me, I think a lot of people in this live would agree with me that that's not true. Still, despite that we all agree that 1 + 1 = 3, somehow that's not true statement anymore. Whereas Harry Potter wearing glasses, that's kind of arbitrary.
Well, it would be true in a different mathematical framework. Right? It all depends on the mathematical framework you're using. If you think 1 + 1
Really?
is 3 in that in is such in a given framework, then that's the case by definition.
Why does math work then? Why does it work in the? It seems to give us empirical.
It's just a language. Why does Spanish work? Why does English work?
Well, so English and Spanish
We're
don't
just
work in the sense that they don't
we are
like.
predefining. Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
We are predefining words to mean certain things, and they're existing all in the same framework, and they are related to each other. They're relational, right? So that's why they work, because we make it work. We've described them to be. We've defined the notions to work.
I don't know, man. I think English is not. So I don't agree that math is a language. I think math makes claims, right? If you have certain axioms, then logically certain things will follow. English doesn't have that kind of structure to it. English is a method of communicating ideas, whereas math, I think, has claims that are true or false inherently, right? But
They're very
despite
similar.
this,
They're very
despite
similar.
this,
There in linguistics. There are formulas for language. There are formulas for letters and symbols and words all coming
what are
together
the
to give
axioms
you
of
letter.
English?
What?
What are the axioms of English?
It would be based on the words you're using, right? It would be based on the words what they are defined to be.
I mean, I think it's funny because we can say what the axioms are for math, right? Like we know exactly what they are. We can quantify them, or we can like specifically say them. I've never heard of axioms of English.
The axioms of English, like for example, the way sentences are formed, those are axioms, right? Sentences work this way. I'm not a language professional or an expert, but there are formulas for how language works in Spanish and in English and Latin and all these things.
No, I don't agree. I mean, I think with time, people have been changing languages. People have been speaking differently. But I mean, whatever. I don't want to get too stuck on this. I mean, I think so. Ultimately speaking, you think math is arbitrary in the sense that, like, if everyone agrees on something, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, I find this a bit troubling because I think for example, like there's gravity uses formulas, etc. So I think the physics, like the physical universe, seems to know or understand math in a way that exists beyond us. But I don't think it's unreasonable to say that math is a social construction. People certainly believe this.
I never said it was a social construction. That's a caricature of what I was describing. I said that it's a language, just as English is a language. We didn't necessarily invent language. It's just something we do. Just like we didn't invent walking. I didn't
Certainly, we
invent
invented
walking, but
language.
I do it. It's just something our bodies perform, and because of evolution. So I
No,
don't
but we
see the
invented
problem.
language.
I don't
Like
see the problem here.
we invented language. I mean, that's certainly the case.
Well, we invented the way language works in certain frameworks, but we didn't invent language itself. That is something that the brain just performs.
What? Who? So I don't know if I understand that fully because like who made English if it wasn't for us?
I just told you, people invented the way English works.
So
They
it's socially
call it English.
constructed.
Hold on, let me explain. Good
Okay.
question. These are good questions. We didn't invent language itself. We invented certain frameworks within the language domain. So English is a framework. Spanish is a framework. Latin is a framework, right? Those are things that those are the axioms of English, for example, are certain axioms. There's different axioms for Spanish. We invented those, but we did not invent language itself. Just
Who
like we
did?
didn't invent math itself, it's something our brains perform, but we did invent the axioms of math, the axioms of certain mathematical frameworks.
Did we invent linguistics? Like in the sense of the common structure that all languages have, right? Like that. I know what you're saying in the sense that there's this common board in which English, French, whatever, all share. So that common foundation, did we invent that? I think it's clear
No,
that
we
we did. I'm
didn't. Again,
surprised that there's
that's what I
pushback
mean
on
by
it.
language. What I mean by language is the systematic process by which we put words together, just symbols together, right? Syntax together. We did not invent that because that's literally a direct product of the brain, the neural connections in the brain. But we did invent the way we put the words together. It's far more simpler than you're putting it.
Well, I also think we invented the words, though. I think we invented both the words and the.
I agree. We invented the words, but we didn't invent the process of language.
Who did? I, don't- I'm
Nobody did. It's just a product of nature.
language is a product of nature.
Yes.
I'm very confused about that.
So the
How
prefrontal cortex is a part of the frontal lobe that generates, we know, language. It generates logic as well, because the brain is a systematic unit that has billions of connections that
but
all get together and
if
generate.
the brain made something, that means we made it. Maybe this is like a semantics issue, but like I agree with you that obviously the brain made it. There's nothing we are doing that's not partly for a product of the brain. But
Okay,
when I say
great.
that,
Then you agree with me. The brain generates these things. What's your contention now with God? What is your point?
well, so the point, okay, I agree that we may have veered a little bit past this, but I do think that the reason why I brought up math is because I think that with math we certainly do believe immaterial claims, or at least I think it's reasonable to say that, you know, I think it's reasonable for some people to believe that math is uh, true statements about an immaterial world, right? Like 1 + 1 = 2. Whether you personally don't think whether you think 1 + 1 = 2 is a social construction or not is not my issue here right now. It's certainly reasonable to believe that 1 + 1 = 2 is a true statement that exists beyond the universe, right? Like, can you agree that that's at least a reasonable thing that people believe in? That'd be hard to not agree with at this
Oh,
point, right?
of course, people believe that, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think 1 + 1 is a real, tangible thing in the real world beyond our minds.
So, are there only so the only things that exist are empirical things?
No, the only things that exist are natural things, which encompass empirical and non-empirical things. But
Can you give me an example of something that's non-empirical that exists that you believe exists?
the number one,
So you do believe that the number one exists?
yes, in our minds, the mind's natural, the
Okay.
mind's physical, but it
No,
doesn't
this is
mean
good.
that
This is good. This is good. I like this. Okay, so the number one. Okay, there's no experiment that I can do that proves that
yes,
the number
there
one
is.
exists. Yeah.
You're trying to get me to this corner where I'm going to say, well, numbers are non-physical. No, numbers.
Well, can I just say I'm not trying to corner you into anything. I just want to make that clear. I'm just trying to explore the idea with you. I don't. I feel like there's no need to be defensive about it or like combative. I think these things are hard, right? And so just trying to explain them
I
is
agree.
useful.
I agree. But
So I'm not trying to corner you.
oh, okay, good. Okay. Well, the problem is that when I say one is non-empirical, what I'm
Okay.
meaning is that the usage of the word, the number one, is non-empirical, right? 1 + 1 = 2. That is not empirical. That is an analytical notion. However,
How do you know it's true?
hold on. Ontologically speaking, right, there is a nature to that number one. It's a brain. It's a neurochemical response in the brain. So again, they all fit within the domain of natural and physical, but they're within that domain. There may be non-physical, non-empirical things and analytical things. So
Well, no. Okay, so if you're claiming
it
that
all works together.
if you're claiming that the number one is just a neurochemical response in the brain, then you're saying that it is a physical thing. Like I can,
Yes,
in principle, you
yes.
can.
Everything. I'm a physicalist. Everything's
Okay, but I
physical.
asked you if you believed in any non-empirical thing. So is there anything non-empirical that you believe in?
You're equivocating. It is not the same thing to say that something is physical and it's not physical and empirical are not the same things. It's not the same notion.
I treat that. I mean, empirical to me just means that there's some like an experiment that one can do to prove that it exists or
Right.
not. Right.
Exactly.
So for
Exactly.
example,
There's
like
no
if
experiment,
you
and there's
here,
no
let me just finish this
experiment.
point. Let me just finish this point real quick. If you're claiming that one is just a neurochemical response in the brain, the neurochemical response in the brain in principle can be tracked, right? Like in principle.
Yes, the response can be tracked, but not the analytical claim, the analytical statement, 1 + 1 is 2. That can't be empirically tracked.
Where so is that so that's a non so that's I mean the way I see what you're saying is that that's not like a non-physical claim.
No, it's still physical, it's just not empirical. It can't be, there's no experiment to show that 1 +
How
1
is
is
it
2.
physical? Is it made of atoms? Like what's it made out of that makes it
What,
physical?
again, electrochemical activity in the brain.
Then why is it not empirical? Like we can in principle track what's happening in the
Again,
brain. So why is that not?
you keep equivocating physical with empirical. They're not the same things.
I'm asking. So what is the specific thing about that I can't track? That neurochemical response. What can't I track?
We're not talking about the neurochemical response. We're talking about the statement 1 + 1 is 2, right? That's a result of the chemical responses.
Okay, let me be honest with you. That to me clearly seems like it's an idea. That like the idea that you're trying to, I don't know. Like an idea is not physical, right? Like an analytical statement is not physical.
Well, we can say they are physical. They're just not empirical claims.
No,
Again,
okay. And is idea
you're
is physical?
confusing the two words. You're confusing physical with empirical. Again, you keep doing it. Everything is physical. Everything's physical. It's just that there are certain claims that they're not true because we empirically test them, right? 1 + 1 is 2. That's true without any testing. That they're a priori truths, right? We don't need testing. there's no test tube for 1 + 1 is 2.
If
Okay.
the universe didn't exist, would 1 + 1 = 2?
No, the universe doesn't give a shit about math.
But you said it's a priori.
What?
You said it's a priori in the sense that it exists before, right?
A,
Like
pri-
it's a given truth.
a priori means it's a knowledge claim that we could come to before any empirical testing.
So if it's disconnected from the universe, then why is it like
It's
you know what I'm
not
saying? Like
disconnected from the universe. It's not disconnected.
but it's so you're saying we can know it before any empirical knowledge, which implies to me that it's
Yes, you don't
disconnected from
need
any empirical
you
fact
don't
about the
need
universe.
empirical knowledge for 1 + 1 is 2. That's why it's an analytical claim.
I don't know. I'm not sure if
Do you know the difference between analytics and empirics or
like an analytic
synthetics?
statement is a statement that follows from axioms, like certain things you consider to be true and then follows.
Yeah. Do you know what a synthetic claim is?
No, I don't. I don't spend time
The
trying to.
synthetic claims is, yeah, the synthetics is what you're talking about. You're talking about things that we can empirically test, right? That falls under the domain of synthetic.
Okay,
Um,
okay. To me, what's confusing me is that you're saying that there's a statement that is disconnected from any empirical fact, but somehow depends on the state of the universe existing. Like that to me sounds contradicting.
where's the
Am I
contradiction?
wrong?
What's the contradiction there? Because empiricals doesn't mean physical. You keep equivocating those two things.
Okay. Does 1 + 1 = do analytic statements depend on physical the physical state of the
Everything's
universe?
physical. Yes, everything's physical in the world, in my eyes.
If the universe was in a different physical configuration, is there some configuration that could exist where 1 + 1 is not 2?
It could exist in any any kind of physical, even on our universe, it could happen. Yes.
In our universe, the universe could be configured in a way where 1 + 1 is not 2.
Yeah, I can just define one as a certain thing that equates to three. It's simple.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy that.
We do know it's simple. Right? Again, depending on the axioms that we
No,
assume,
so to be clear, to me the simpler
we can
thing
use any
is to claim.
symbols.
To me, the simpler claim is to say that these things exist beyond the universe. You're making immaterial claims, and it doesn't, which I think
Beyond
is
the
intuitive to
universe.
most people,
Hold on there. Beyond the universe. What's that mean? Beyond the universe.
in the sense that it does not depend on the physical configuration of the universe.
Why would you invoke that in the first place when we can perfectly describe it as physical phenomenon?
I don't think we can. You know what I'm saying? I think making the claim.
Then give
Let
the
me,
reasoning why
let me
math.
explain. Let me explain. Let me just explain. I think the claim that there's a configuration of the universe where 1 + 1 = 2 just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see any configuration of the universe where that's possible. You're making it seem like it's as arbitrary as saying as Harry Potter wears glasses, but I don't. I don't agree that they're the same kind of statement.
You don't think I can I can define one to have 1 + 1 = 3? I can't define that.
Certainly you can, right? Like you can
Okay,
say things are
then there
true,
you
but
go. Then
but
there
I do
you
think that
go.
it's truth
Then
that
we live in a
exists
universe where
beyond what
one
you
plus
define it to
one could
be.
be three.
No, no, yeah, I think you can define a system, but I think that like it's just
Okay.
false, you know?
What- it wouldn't be false because it would be true by definition, right?
Well, to
That's
you,
what an
every
analytical
mathematical
statement
statement is true
means.
by definition, right? What's a false mathematical statement?
One that does not adhere to the framework.
But your framework is flexible. I can change my framework whenever I want to.
Yes, in that framework, if you abide by the same axioms, you can generate truth statements. But the one we use in mathematics, we have a certain mathematical framework where that's false. In others, it might be true. That's how math really works.
Uh, I don't know if I agree that that's how math really works, but it's okay.
Okay,
Whatever.
you can disagree, but that's how mathematics works, and you have no better reason to think otherwise.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think many people look. Uh, if I elaborate, I want to that would give out information that I don't want to be public. So
And look, by the way, this has no bearing on the existence of a God because there are
no, it does.
atheists.
It does because let me just at least tell you the
No, no,
thought
no, no,
process.
no. Let me explain this to you. Before we go move on. There are Platonists who are atheists, and they're non-physicalists, right? They would take the position that math is something non-physical, but it's not God that explains these things. It's just the Platonic realm, like Plato's Platonic realm. There would be no reason why God has any bearing on this kind of discussion. So just make that clear before you move on.
Okay, I think it's a straw man to say that I was trying to imply, or maybe not a straw man. Look, I'm not trying to imply that you need to believe in God to believe in math. That's not. I think that's kind of silly, right? I think that's not what I believe in. What I am trying to kind of tease out is that I think that it's intuitive, at least, right, or at least a lot of people do believe in claims that are immaterial, and I would point to math being one of those. I think you take somewhat of a radical position, in my opinion, right, that where you claim that every statement in math is either true or not true by definition. But what I'm trying to say is I think that a lot of people have this intuitive notion that 1 + 1 = 2 beyond the universe, in the sense that like if everyone died tomorrow, it'd still be true that 1 + 1 = 2. In this sense, I think it is reasonable to believe in immaterial statements. And so God existing or not existing counts as an immaterial statement. And as long as you give me some criterion for believing in or not believing in
Why does that
material
matter
things.
if it's why does that matter if it's an immaterial statement or not? Why does that matter? It doesn't get us to God. Like all
Because
this
we have a system for understanding empirical claims, which is mainly experimentation, right? Like I can test if gravity is real or not, but we do not have a methodology of learning immaterial things. So I think it's not. I don't think it's crazy to believe in God, because I think like if you believe in math, then what's stopping you from believing other immaterial things?
you, you're assuming that's immaterial.
A lot of people do. I mean, to be clear here,
Okay,
I think your position here is pretty radical.
but this is not necessarily the case that you're right. Neither is it the case that this points to God. So you're kind of just barking up the wrong tree. You're not really giving a good reason
No,
why
no. Okay, so
God.
yeah, I'm not here to. I think it'd be crazy to prove here on a TikTok live that God is real, right? I think that's crazy, and I think that's obviously
Well,
not what
I'm
I'm
not
going to
asking for
do.
proof. I'm asking for any good reason, not proof. There's a difference.
Well, okay, so what it says above your head is God is imaginary. Can you prove me wrong? Okay, which seems to imply that it's kind of silly to believe in these immaterial things, right? Like, or you're making a
No,
certain.
it's not silly.
Or okay, how about this? Let me reframe
Platonism
this.
is perfectly logical and valid. I don't see any
Let me
problem.
reframe this. Like you are making a claim about the immaterial world in this sense. You're saying it
That's
doesn't
your
exist.
assumption. That's your assumption.
Well, certainly, if God is an immaterial object, then you are
That's your
making a claim about it.
assumption. Okay, what's an immaterial? That's the question
Do
we
you
need
think
to ask
most
you now,
Do you think
right?
most people think that God is a strictly physical object?
Some might think it's physical. I don't. You
I think
don't.
most
So
people
what's the
don't.
reasoning? What's the reasoning for God being true?
I'm not here. Look, if you want to move on to another guest, that's fine. I'm not here.
All right, let's move on. Look, that was a good discussion, but it was pretty fruitless in regards to the conversation about God, because there are atheists who disagree with me about math. Right? There are mathematical realists. I just disagree with them. But this doesn't get to God. And but yeah, I appreciate you being up here. It takes balls to be up here. So
Yo, what's up?
hey,
So I think my reason for believing in God is that, say, you don't have all knowledge, right? So imagine, right? So imagine all the knowledge you have like a circle, right? Like a pie chart. And outside of that, say a piece of that pie is your knowledge, right? Is it possible that the existence of God exists outside of your your knowledge?
it depends on what you mean by God. If you think God is a square circle, no, it can't exist. But it's not. It can't exist.
Well,
Um,
my definition of God is a source, right? A driving energy of the universe. And something I want to mention about math. Math is the language of the universe, and math is encoded in nature. So
well, no, that's a hefty claim there to suggest that math is somehow embedded in nature.
no, it is because the golden
Where?
ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. There's many examples of math encoded in nature. I mean, that's just something that you can look into on
There
your own
are
time.
patterns in nature, but math is something in my eyes that is not in nature. In terms of like existing really in nature, it's really just something in our minds, in my eyes, and we're describing nature, we're describing the patterns we see, but there is no Fibonacci sequence in objects. That's not true at all.
Yes, yes,
And
respectfully.
furthermore, it doesn't demonstrate God. Like you could be Platonist about this and suggest math is real, but there's no
Well,
God still. So
what I'm saying is there's clearly an intelligence behind the universe.
really, so
Okay, and the thing with
there.
entropy, right? Entropy cannot create. Entropy can only destroy. You cannot create
What?
things.
What is entropy? What is entropy?
You cannot create things from chaos.
Sure, you can. I'll show you in a second. If you answer me, what is entropy?
I define entropy as like things decomposing, like chaos.
Okay, you don't know what entropy is. Entropy is the measurement of disorder. And in fact, we wouldn't be here if the universe didn't become more increase in entropy. Because disorder can create orderly things over time. Ever hear of a supernova explosion? A star explodes, the gas goes out into space. Over time, gravity allows it to collapse again together and create a star system, create perhaps planets and life. That is order, chaos to order. Um, and the entire universe's entropy, although is increasing, there might be pockets of order where it's decreasing. There's areas in the universe where order is decreasing or increasing, depending on where you are, depending on the circumstance. So your claim is to me baseless.
Well, I do think you should definitely look into the math that's encoded into nature because it's definitely a real thing. And I think, just the genius that's behind the universe, um, and all the things that come together for us to be here. Like we're on a rock flying through space. Like there's so many things that could have gone wrong for us not to even be here. Also, I would also
There's
add,
so many ways that God could have been that he wouldn't be here either. If God was just a little bit less powerful, he wouldn't be here. If God was a little bit dumber. He wouldn't be here. There are many ways that God could have gone wrong. He could have been evil. We wouldn't be here, right? We would have been in some kind of torture chamber. So the same applies to God. Who designed God? Does that mean there's somebody more intelligent than God making God? Is there a super God making God? Furthermore, there are instances in nature that no smart person would ever, in the right mind, think to do. Like, for example, the left laryngeal nerve in giraffes. This is a nerve in giraffes in which it goes up maybe 15 feet in their bodies. It goes all throughout their neck when all it has to do is connect together here. But because of evolutionary time, the nerve stretched all the way up to the head and neck and went down again like a loop. That is dangerous. That can cause lots of giraffes to die in certain ways. For example, choking. We choke on our food, or we choke on water. All God had to do, if he was smarter, was make another hole. He didn't do it, right? Or if he was really smart, he would just make us not have to eat at all. I mean, what kind of designer would make a design that has to continually eat and drink water every single day, or else they die? That seems like a dumb design to me. So not only is it unevidenced that there is design, but it's also there's instances against design in favor of naturalism.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's flaws with, we're not, I mean, sure, there's some like things you could cherry pick about, what's wrong with our, our bodies or whatever creation, right? But I think when you think about like glass half full, like all the things that went right, all the things that work well, right? And also you should keep in mind how evolution comes to be, right? It's more like something's created, survival of the fittest, right? If that thing is able to reproduce, then it's going to pass on those qualities. So sure, if someone was born with an extra hole and that for some reason allowed him to reproduce more than someone with one, whatever, then sure, then we would have that. But
Yeah, look. The fact that we have to wear clothing is an example of how evolution works. We survived in a very small range of parameters that enabled us to pass our genes and move on, right? There is no sense of evolution being some kind of optimizing function where we get optimized to be the best. It's every case we find that the species is only sufficiently able to survive and pass down their genes. Very little parameters beyond that. That's evidence to me that this is evolution, and this isn't somebody finely tuning us to be here with a larger range of possibilities. I think that we're very confined. If there is a designer, he was very confined in what he could generate. Um, Furthermore, I don't see why or how you can determine if there's design or not. How would you tell the difference between a designed universe where there is a designer and one that's not designed? How could you really tell the difference if every instance of the universe is designed? There are many problems with this design thing.
yeah, I think you could only say that you could be agnostic and say, I don't know if there is a God. I mean, you
You
could,
could say that, but the problem is that that is just something nobody cares about, right? We want to know what the truth is. And if you're going to give us something here today, we want something good, right?
mhm.
Good reasons for God. I don't care if you don't know.
Well, I do believe we have this desire to create. And I actually kind of like the idea of the egg theory. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Are
No.
you, well, the idea is that, you know, basically the universe, the Big Bang happens, we're the universe experiencing itself, and then eventually we incarnate multiple times until we have our own Big Bang, and then we become our own God in this and create our own universe, and then just kind of this perpetual rebirth that's constantly happening. So it's a pretty interesting theory, but I
Yeah,
want
it's
to.
very interesting, but I would suggest that that's probably not the case. I think that the evidence shows that we happen to be here over time, we evolved, and we will die, and that's it. And the universe is incredible. It's vast, it's magnificent. We don't know much about it, but it doesn't give us the right to say God did it. You know?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah. How are you?
Okay, awesome. I'm doing pretty good. So I'm for your position, and I wanted to see if I could maybe share some thoughts on it, or if you're just looking for people against it.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you have? Just make it quick. I don't want to be here forever.
Okay, yeah, no. So when we look at the concept of God, it's more of an anthropomorphized supernatural entity, right? So it's almost inevitable that we would have used it at one point to explain what was happening because we didn't have DNA, we didn't have fossil records that we could look at and explain through dating techniques, right? So it makes sense that we, God of the gaps, like it explains it, right? And then we see the progression of gods, like we look at the predecessors to the monotheistic god like Zeus and some of those other ones that are now considered mythology. So it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination to see how there's a high potential that these were a product of human intelligence and cultural evolution. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea of God has evolved through time with us. Our ancestors believed in, like you said, anthropomorphizing the nature around them, the animals. There's animalism, the idea that animals had spirits, that there's animals could talk or something, things like that. Then there is idea that you know there were gods for the soil, the air, the wind gods, the thunder gods, the rain gods. Everything was a god because people looked for something. They looked for resources, and they were looking to get something in return. So they made sacrifices. Right? They thought they had to give something to the gods to get rain, to get fertility. Um, so that's where the idea of sacrifice comes in, and then polytheism, and then monotheism. God is a very, I wouldn't say God's a human thing, but thinking of these spiritual things is human because we imagine. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, thank you. Let's go on to someone else now. I became an atheist at 15. Weird to see a 30-year-old still talk about it. Well, I'm here to help people. What's weird is to not talk about these things when we live in a time where people are so confused, don't know what to believe, and they're not offered any kind of message. What is the message that atheists have today? What's the purpose? Where's the message of purpose? I'm here to offer something like that. There is an atheistic perspective where you can derive great purpose and great values and a great message that you don't need God to be a good person. Um, you can't teach someone how to not be a doctor. You can't teach. I don't know what that means. You can't teach that. We're not teaching you to not believe God. I'm not here to say don't believe in God. I'm here to suggest that maybe we ought to think more about our beliefs. Um, yeah, I've helped many people, and I know you're skeptical of that, but I have, and it is helping to discuss these things. Hello?
What's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
Good. You?
Good.
Uh, so if God is imaginary, how did the universe come to be then?
Great question. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 23.
Yeah, so you're asking if God doesn't exist, how did he come to be? Well, as far as we know, uh, the universe seems to be a place where it's just we can't see the ends of it. It might be infinite. And however, with what we observe, we see stars, we see galaxies out there, we see the universe expanding. What we find is a cosmic evolution, where first you have gases and dusts, clouds. Those condense into planets and stars. Those make life forms on it because of chemical evolution happening on planets, amino acids and lipids and phosphates and proteins. Um,
Then what about us,
what about
humans?
what?
What about humans, us? How do we come?
Yeah, we are a collection of those organic molecules, a system of these molecules that over time evolved. And we have lots of evidence for evolution. We have evidence for all these things. Astonishingly,
What
we
evidence?
have so much understanding of the universe.
What evidence in evolution is there?
We have fossils, we have the genetic records, we have DNA itself. We can look into your DNA and see our genetic pasts. We can find out that we share ancestry with bonobos, chimps, gorillas, monkeys. We share ancestors with all animals alive today. We all stem from a common ancestor.
So basically, you and I are related,
Yes, we are apes. Humans are great apes.
genetically related.
All life is genetically related to each other, even bacteria.
Then how? Like, how do I have curly hair? You got straight hair. How are you like different heights and shit?
Yeah, these are phenotypical differences in our DNA, right? These are parts of the DNA that are more easily mutate, um, and that's what happens over time, over generations. Humans went different ways in our evolutionary past. Humans are about 500,000 years old, but over time they migrated to different areas of the globe, and in this migration they developed different phenotypes, and that's why you look different than me, and I look different from you, and we all have our own differences. It's because of our evolution.
If evolution is real, that means Adam and Eve. It can't be real. So I don't know.
Correct. That's correct.
I mean, it makes more sense that we come from two people and it's spread out throughout the world than us coming from apes and monkeys.
Well, we are apes, so it's a fact that we are apes. We're taxonomically apes. There's no doubt about that. We have ape fingers, ape hair, ape bodies, ape physiology.
We don't have 8 fingers. Apes have 4 fingers. We have 5.
No, apes have 5 fingers. They have thumbs too, just like we do. They can grasp
How
things.
come those apes didn't evolve then? How come they didn't lose the hair on their faces? And
Great question. So the reason why the other apes seem to have more fur is because they did not migrate out of Africa. See, our chimp ancestors stem from Central Africa, where at the time there is this climatic change happening, the African Rift Valley, and it blocked a lot of the rain in the region, and it caused desertification. And what this means is that our ape ancestors had to leave the trees and walk across Africa, and this caused them to lose their hair. They became thinner because they had to sweat to walk further distances. We had to walk bipedally. We had to develop larger brains to survive in those new environments. So survival drove us to be different than the other apes. We wanted to survive more than the other ape ancestors. Now, the other chimps that were there, the other ape ancestors, some of them lived in different regions where they didn't have to migrate. So they weren't forced to move out of their places. And that's why we are different from them still.
man, it's kind of crazy. I grew up as a Hindu. I can't like I don't even know like how did you leave your religion? Because I heard you were a Christian for 20 years. How did you come to find yourself to like leaving the religion? Was it hard? You just,
Of course, it was hard. It was scary at first. I was like, oh no, I have to leave. I don't want to leave this religion. I don't want to leave God. It took me months to really finally call myself an atheist. But what drove it was the fact that I read the Bible deeper and I recognized how fallible it is, how wrong it is, um, how many mistakes and errors there are. And then that led me to the fact, like, hey, maybe there is no God at all. Maybe that's not true either. Um, in fact, Adam and Eve thing was one of the first things that I questioned and led me to recognizing it's not real. But yeah, you just got to read more. If you learn more, you understand more things about the world, you have a better gauge as to where to go.
yeah, to be honest,
It might seem it might seem better to think that Adam and Eve are real,
mm,
but that's coming from a scientifically illiterate person who doesn't understand the science. You know,
yeah. I guess people just, I guess I'm just scared to go to hell. You know,
that's a
so
big factor too. Yes, people are scared to go to hell. It's a big factor. And the way I got out of that was realizing that firstly, no good God would ever punish me for for not believing in it. That's not a good thing to do. But then I realized that, hey, you know, there's nothing. It's not about. There's nothing wrong about me for not believing. I came to a logical conclusion. Wouldn't a good God want us to use our brains that He designed for us?
yeah,
That's what I thought too, and I realized over time I kind of faded.
dang man.
Here.
All right, man. I'll see you if I got more questions. I got you, man.
All right, man. See, guys, these are conversations we should be having instead of saying, "Oh, you believe in that? That's stupid." That's not the right way to do it. Don't name call, right? Don't dismiss people who are religious. Welcome them. Be kind. Um, don't just say, "Oh, you're right. You're wrong. You believe in fairy tales." Yeah, I used to do that sometimes, and I was wrong for doing it. I was thinking that I, was doing something good, but it's not effective in helping the most amount of people. All right, who wants one more? I think Mike met Jesus. That's why he's nice now. No, I was influenced by other people, but also the fact that I realized what I was doing was not the most effective way of helping. And I came to that not by praying, but by thinking. What's the best way to help the most people? Read a book of magic or do something about it? Do something about it turned to be the right option. And so I don't credit anything but myself for changing. Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Uh, so you're like an atheist?
Correct.
So you don't believe like in any God?
No.
How did the universe come into existence then?
Wow, that's a big question to start with. Well, the universe may not need a beginning. It may have always existed. In that case, there is no beginning or start to it. It could have always been. Or if it did begin, it could have been caused by a quantum fluctuation, could have been caused by a quantum mechanical thing.
The universe does have a beginning, though. So how does nothing come? How does something come from nothing?
Well, we don't know if there's nothing. We only know something exists, but we don't know if there's a nothing. We don't know what that word even means, nothing. Because every time you think of nothing, you're thinking of something, right? So by definition, it just seems like a weird thing to say. But furthermore, we don't know if there's a beginning. The Big Bang isn't the beginning. It's not the ultimate beginning necessarily. It might be the beginning of our observable universe, but not the entire universe. And that's why suggesting it is the beginning is faulty.
So, and there's still a uncaused cause, right?
Again, there might not be an uncaused cause, and there might not be a cause to the universe at all. It might just be without cause.
How can something just be if we know, like, if the universe has a starting point, right? We dated 14 billion years, right?
No,
The Big
not
Bang.
we don't know if the Big Bang is the ultimate true beginning. We don't know if that's the case. There could be something prior to the Big Bang. The Big Bang could be a cyclic thing, a phase where it expands and contracts, it expands and contracts. We don't know for
That's
sure.
that's something that you don't know is the thing I would call God, the uncaused cause.
This is a God of the gaps fallacy. I don't know what it is, therefore God. That seems fallacious to me because
No,
imagine
it's
if I did
not.
this. Look, imagine if I turned this over and said, I don't know what happened, therefore atheism. Would you accept that argument?
It's not a fallacy because the other possibilities are impossible. Because life, for life for life to happen, you need another life. Life doesn't come out of non-life. So you're alive right now, right? So I know that your parents like created you.
Well,
So
do you understand that you drink water and you eat food every day, right?
yeah,
Is your water alive?
uh, uh, I don't know. Like it has cells in it that
No,
that
water's not alive. But water goes into your body and it generates the energy for life, right? See, life is not an object, it's a process. So non life absolutely creates life because life is just what non life does. It's the process of non life.
Can you show me an instance where non-life creates life in this world?
Yeah, I just described to you drinking water, right? You drink water, the water goes to your cells. Your cells use that water to generate more cells, right? That's life from non-life, water and food.
Me drinking the water does not create the life; it sustains the life.
Exactly. Life is a process that is sustained by non-life.
But the cause, I can you show me a cause where a non-life causes something to become life?
Okay, well now you're talking about abiogenesis, which we have lots of evidence for. You can go back to about 4 billion years ago, in which there was a nucleobases that make up DNA and RNA. You're coming together, amino acids formed by the gases of the early Earth. We have phospholipids creating the first protocells, encapsulating those nucleobases. RNA was polymerized via clay phosphates undergoing circulation through the Earth's surface in the oceans near hydrothermal vents. So that is how life, the first cells, the first replicating life was created from non-life. But of course, since then, life has sustained itself for billions of years. We're on this ever never-ending thread of life.
First of all, that's a theory. Second of all, let me grant you that that's not that you're showing me the process. You're not showing me how God caused. For example, if I have like Beethoven here, and I can see how it follows. Like, oh, right here he does a this, or like if I have Shakespeare and I see, oh, right here he has a comma or an exclamation point. That's showing me the process. I still need to know where that Shakespeare came from. You're showing me the process of how that is. Can you tell me where that came from? How did that non-life come?
I explained to you the process by which it came from non-life.
A process and a
Look,
cause is not the same.
if you're asking me how did the everything get here, well, that's another question, because now you're talking about the nature of the universe, which it could have always been, right? The stuff of the universe could have always existed, so it doesn't need to begin or start. It could have just evolved, sustained these evolutionary processes
Einstein
through time.
disagrees with me because he says the universe does have a beginning. So anything that has a beginning has a cause. So I can see the universe is fine-tuned as well. I can see like the simplest thing, like gravity going a little bit up or down. It means we're not gonna survive. Or us being a little bit closer to the moon or to the sun, or like
Okay.
the how I see my eyes. All
Okay.
this that
Okay.
that
Ethio, if God was a little bit less powerful, would we be here?
if God was a little bit less powerful, would we be here? That's an impossibility because God is all powerful. That's like saying a square circle.
Exactly. If God was a bit less powerful, we would not be here, right? Because he'd be limited. He wouldn't be here. If God didn't have the desire to make us, would we be here?
No.
So who tuned God to have the desire to make us?
God is the uncaused. He has no beginning. He's eternal.
Okay, well then, if we can grant you that, why can't you grant us the fact that the universe has no beginning and is eternal?
Because science disagrees with you. Einstein disagrees with you. The universe does have a beginning. Boom. That's what you guys say. Everything comes into creation.
I'm sorry, Ethio, but the Big Bang is not the beginning. Can you describe to me what the Big Bang means?
The Big Bang is a sudden boom, expansion. Everything comes into creation, right? Or I don't know. Explain to me. I might be wrong. Go ahead. I'm not saying I know everything.
I appreciate the humility there, but that's not the Big Bang. The Big Bang wasn't a boom or a big boom. The Big Bang is simply a moment in time when the universe is smaller, hotter, denser, and has since expanded. That's it. And it's not the ultimate beginning of anything. It's just a time when the universe was smaller and hotter.
Can
That's all
you
it means.
quote? Can you show me that? Can you show me where it says
Yes,
the
it's called look up the Big Bang lambda model. This is a particular Big Bang
I just have
model
my
that
phone
is
on.
the consensus amongst physicists.
It's come on, man. The consensus among the physicists is the universe does have a beginning.
Where's that consensus? Where did you get that from?
I got it from Albert Einstein.
Okay, that's one person. And by the way, he never said that. But
You want to bet? Google it.
let's just grant you Einstein said the universe began. That's not a consensus amongst contemporary physicists. So
Can you show me the consensus that says the universe uh didn't have a beginning?
yeah, where's the consensus that the universe began at the Big Bang?
You're the one that said first this. Can you pull it up and show me? I asked you.
I never said there was consensus either way.
You did.
No, there is no consensus either way. We don't know if it began or not. I maintained that since the beginning.
Okay. Can I ask you about morality then?
Sure.
Is Are certain things objectively wrong, like grape?
Grape to me is wrong in all cases, but that doesn't mean it's objectively wrong. There's a difference between something being objective and always wrong.
So at a certain point, someone, for example, in Muslim countries and Sharia law, grape is okay. Are they objectively wrong?
They're wrong to me.
But they're not objectively wrong.
Why does it matter if they're objectively or subjectively wrong? They're wrong to me.
But that's to you. So let's say in their culture it's right. If they do it, you can't say that they're objectively wrong, right?
I can say they're wrong.
But deep down, do you feel that they're objectively wrong or no?
I don't know. I don't feel objectively. I feel subjectively, right? So subjectively, that's all I can be. I think they're wrong. Period.
But you, so you can't condemn them.
Like I said from the beginning, grape is wrong in all cases. Period. That's my belief.
So, but they're not objectively wrong, so you can't condemn them, right?
But why does it matter if it's objective or subjective? It's wrong to me. That's all morality needs.
Then, if that's the case, then if they can do it, you can't go against their subjective view.
No, I can.
Right?
Here, I'll do it for you. I'm going to go against their beliefs. There it is. I did it. Now let me ask you this, Ethio. If God came down tomorrow and said grape is good, would you think grape is good?
God will not say that.
but what if he did?
I base my morality based on God, so anything God says is good,
Right.
I follow it.
Right. So if tomorrow God came down and presented the Third Testament and said, in this New Testament, New Testament, grape is good, would you think that's a good thing now?
I can't answer that because that's a contradiction for me. Because for me, my God says that's wrong, so I can't say yes. But my God is the absolute morality where you get standard from. So whatever God says, that's where you're supposed to follow. But
Okay.
for you,
So
if
Levitical
no
law.
God,
So let's take Levitical law for example. In 2013, where God says, if somebody has intercourse with another man, they should be unalived. Do you think that's good?
I don't follow Levitical law. I follow the New Testament.
Oh, but that's God's law.
That's in the Old Testament.
It's still God's law, just like all the 10 Commandments are in the Old Testament.
Yeah, I don't think killing is someone that does homosexuality. I don't think that's. You have to look at the context. At that time, God was there with the Israelites, right? Was he there with them, with the Israelites? And the Leviticus they were seeing him, right? So if you're seeing God right there in front of you, for example, we're not seeing God right now. So if you go against the law, we can't get killed. That's what the New Testament says. But then the Old Testament, they were right there seeing him. So if they go against him right there, God has the absolute right to do whatever he wants with you because he's the one that created you.
So do you agree or do you disagree that unaliving people for having intercourse, homosexual intercourse, is that wrong or is that good to unalive them?
In the Old Testament, at that time, it was okay. I agree with it.
So you think it's good to unalive people who have homosexual intercourse?
At the time of the Old Testament, yes, not now.
Why was it good then but not but bad now?
I just explained. God was there with them, walking with them, talking to them. They were seeing him in the pillar of the cloud. So if they're seeing him right there and then they decide to go against him, God has absolute control over their life. So if they're going against him right in front of him, he can do whatever he wants with them. But we don't have absolute proof right now for God.
So if God is right here with us, he can do anything he wants. He can grape us, and that's good, right?
No, he can't grape us because that goes against his morality.
But what if he... But you said he could do anything he wants.
Yeah, anything he wants that doesn't go against his moral code, yes.
Yep, so what if he comes down and grapes? That's his moral code. Would that be good to you?
God is unchanging, so he's not going to do that.
But you just said before it was good, but now it's bad, so he does change.
No, I don't think every single thing that God describes is eternal. There are certain stuff that are for times that change. Like at the time for the Israelites, during the time of Moses, there's laws.
Okay, so then you agree that his laws can change. So you agree that his laws can change. So what if God came down tomorrow and he gave us the New Testament? The the trilogy, and he suggests that grape is good. Would you agree with him?
I believe there are subjective laws that change at the time, but there's objective realities that God has inscribed in our hearts.
Yeah, it's a
So
yes or no, Ethia. Would you agree with God that grape is good, or would you disagree with God that grape is good?
God won't say that because he already says objectively that's wrong.
But what if he did say it's good this time? Would
That's
you
like
agree with
saying
that?
a square triangle. I can't answer that because he's not gonna say that.
Oh, what's the
I'm
logical?
asking
Okay, so you're saying what's the logical
you're
contradiction
trying
then?
to switch it on me, but you're the one that's supposed to answer this.
Are you suggesting that it's a logical impossibility that God would grape?
Yes,
What's the logical contradiction?
because that goes against the morality of God.
That's not a logical contradiction.
Yes, it is because God is the objective morality we base our morality on. So you're trying to switch it on me,
That's
but
not a contradiction, right?
you're trying to switch it on me, but you're the one that's in a dilemma because you can't condemn these Muslims that say, for example,
I can. I
Muhammad
condemn them. I condemn
Muhammad
them. I condemn them.
Muhammad
There it
married
is. There
a
it is.
6 year old. Muhammad married a
I
six
condemn
six year
that.
old. You
I
can't
condemn that. There it
you
is.
condemn that, but you can't objectively condemn that, right?
Why does it matter if I can't objectively or not do it? I did it.
Because at a certain point he can do whatever he wants, right?
No, I think he should not do whatever he wants.
That's you, says who?
Yes,
Says who?
says me. Says me. Right?
So
We can be
we
moral
should base
judges.
our morality based off you.
We are moral agents. We can decide what is good or bad for society. Right? We
Well,
don't need
200
God to
years
do
ago,
that for
people said
us.
slavery was okay. Is that okay then?
No, they're wrong. They're wrong.
So you need to have an objective truth. Then this morality
Why?
changes.
Why?
It
Why do
changes.
we need objective truth?
Then you can't. You know deep down in your heart, your grape is wrong, but you don't want to say that because
I feel strongly that it's wrong.
why do you feel?
That's all I need.
No, that's not all you need because you know objectively.
What more do I need?
Objectively, you know, for example, if a 2 year old gets raped, nowhere, wherever are you gonna say that's okay? I'm not saying you're gonna say it's
I
okay,
agree. So
but if you don't have a God,
what do
you
you
can't
think
objectively say
objectivity
that.
means? What do you think objective means?
Objective meaning it can never change. It's like straight as set.
Yeah, that's not what objective means, right?
Okay, what does it mean, please?
In moral
Enlighten me.
philosophy, objectivity means stance independent. In other words, independent of anybody's stance, it's going to be wrong. It's going to be a fact of the matter that it's wrong or good.
Yes.
That's objectivity, not is it bad or good at all times.
Okay. Is it objectively bad to grape a 2 year old?
It's wrong. You don't
Is
need
it
to add
objectively wrong?
part to it. Adding the objective part does nothing for us.
It does do something for you.
What does it do?
But
What does it do?
objectively
What
wrong
does it do? What does it do that makes it better?
because I can condemn it every single time.
So can I
You're
every
gonna say
time condemn it.
that's
I
your
condemn it
personal
every time.
belief. That's your personal belief. You can't
And
condemn them for doing
and
that.
it's your belief that your God is good.
But you can't condemn people for doing that, right? Because they have their own belief, right? You can't condemn people's belief.
Yes, I can.
Condemning
I
their belief.
condemn their belief. I condemn it. I condemn their
But they can
actions.
follow whatever they want. That's their belief, right?
They
They're
can
not
follow
wrong.
what they want, but I condemn them. Period. So that's wrong. Now,
That's wrong to you, but that's not wrong to them.
Now, when it comes to your God, how do you know that God is good and that you should follow what God says? What if God says grape is good? You would just be like, oh, okay, grape is good now.
Come to collide, man. Can I show you prophecies in the Bible? Can you explain that for me?
You can't get sidetracked, right? Let's go back to the question. The question is, would you grape if God said, go ahead, grape? To you. If
No,
came
because
down and
God
said,
is not going to say that.
But what if he did? Would you do it?
No,
No?
God can't say that.
Why not?
Because when I see this creation, I can see that God is good. And I can see from Revelation, God is good.
Okay, so how about in Samuel 15:3, when God commands the Amalekites to be completely ravaged?
Yeah, so you can see there he gave them 400 years to
In
repent
grape,
of
by the
the.
way, in grape.
They were
You know that
they were
they were commanded to be grape, the woman.
no,
Was God
pull it
good
up.
there? Was God good there?
Pull it up. It says kill. I'm not gonna lie, it looks bad when you look at it first. It says kill all the children, the things, the thing. But when you look in context, that's you can see it's good. But can you show me where it says grape them? Please pull it up. Please pull it up. I want to see. Can you pull it up?
Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to laugh. I don't want to laugh. I don't want to. I don't want this to be a cage fight. I really don't want it to be this way. But um, that do you see how this kind of thinking, particularly about the morality aspect to this, right? Do you see how that moral system is dangerous? Dangerous. And I'm not here to say Christianity bad or God bad. That's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is the kind of mindset that religion teaches, which is, this must be the case at all times. No questioning. That's a problem. And that's why a secular system is far better, because look, a secular system adapts to changing conditions. If tomorrow we discover that there's, people thought being gay was something wrong, and then we discovered it's something that the brain does, right? The same with the transgender issue. It's something the brain does. So we're recognizing there's nothing wrong with these things. It's just how people are. And that's why our morality changes with facts. Whereas his is stuck in the the Bronze Age, 3,000-year-old moral system, and then it's no wonder why he's stuck in answering these questions. Oh, it's good, but it's bad. Trust me. But yeah, appreciate you guys listening in and hearing. I'll take some questions. Look, guys, I think it's important that people stop belittling Christians and being abrasive. I think we got to stop it, because it's not helping very much to do that. We got to be kinder, and this applies to across the board, politically speaking, everything. There really is no reason to hate. There's no reason to hate somebody who opposes you. You should always be understanding. Should always be understanding and always be open to discussion, even if it's Trump or Elon or Kamala or whoever you don't like, right? The person you hate the most. You should always be open to discussing things. And we shouldn't be so quick to hate, because it doesn't really do anything now, especially today, where it just adds to the polarization. It doesn't help anybody, you know. But because what we hear today a lot is from the left, is particularly, is anytime a Trump supporter comes in, he's a racist, or anytime somebody criticizes gender, for example, gender critical people, oh, they're just transphobic, homophobic, all these names before we even give our case. That's the wrong way to do it, right? We shouldn't name call. We shouldn't be so quick to hate and demonize the other side. Because if you want to really help other people and convince them that you're right, you have to be open to them being wrong in front of your face. You just have to accept it, but help them. Make them really understand. And that's hard. It's hard to do. It's not easy, but you can do it. Vegan debate, I will be probably doing it next week. I'm not going to go live every day. No, that's not dandruff. That's I put spray in my hair. What do you think's the meaning of life? To live your life. Enjoy it the best you can, and help as many people as you can. Why do I say this? Because when you understand the world around you, you appreciate it more. And when you really start to appreciate the world, when you learn about things, you gain a very keen sense of appreciation for them. And you want to cherish them. You want to cherish your friends, your family, everybody, nature, animals. And you have a very great sense of purpose to help the world around you, to make it a better place. So I don't need God for that. I don't need religion or spirituality or tarot card readings or psychics. Science itself is a force of unity for our world. You know, people don't like science a lot, but science can actually do a lot to help your understanding of the world and helping your morality. Science always change. Well, no, science doesn't change. The data we collect changes, and that's a good thing. We don't want the same data forever. We want new data to change our understanding, to improve our understanding. We don't want to remain stagnant forever, like religion. We don't want to believe the same thing forever. That is a recipe for disaster. Imagine believing in 2025 that we all come from a talking snake, or a, you know, all of our wrongs are because somebody ate an apple 2,000 years ago. I mean, come on. That's a recipe for disaster when those ideas clash with the modern world. Okay. You can't use religion anymore. It's an outdated, ineffective, inefficient method to truth. What does morality have to do with science? A lot. Science gives you perspectives that you can't get from religion. It shows you a cosmic perspective. Look at the pale blue dot right behind me. There's the Earth, a little dot. You can barely see it from billions of miles away. I mean, that underscores how important our world is, to cherish it, to maintain it, to conserve our planet, to help nature, not to destroy it, you know? Science can do that. Science it can help you become a way better person in almost every way. But we aren't doing those things. Yeah, because everybody's not looking up. Everybody's looking down. Everybody's looking in their books, their Bibles. Nobody's... I mean, how often do we hear science anymore in the media? How many people talk about these kinds of topics? Nobody. A handful of people. I think these are important things to talk about. Why is there so much confusion? Why is there so much bigotry, homophobia, transphobia? Why do these things exist? It's not because they're dumb and they don't understand them. It's that we are not exposed to these very deep discussions that enable more insight on these things. We don't get the chance to talk about these things. Everybody's so secretive about them. Oh, don't talk about that. It's too touchy of a subject. Don't talk about religion. The more we suppress these ideas, the more we suppress the reality of the world around us. we're going to be ever more confused. At some point, we have to really discuss and talk and debate. It's important sometimes. And that will drive you to do more learning. It's a cycle of prosperity, right? You do science, questions arise, you debate those things, you learn more about those things, and you do it over and over again. It's a cycle of prosperity. We've been doing it for thousands of years, but now all of a sudden, everybody thinks they're they know everything because they saw some influencer on YouTube or Twitter. That's we're entering dangerous territory where people have lost a scientific compass. They've lost the ability to decipher what's true, what's not true. And with the addition of AI, it's becoming even harder to determine what's true. And we're becoming lazier and lazier about obtaining knowledge. I mean, just go on Google, right? Just go on ChatGPT and get it. We're training ourselves to become so ostracized, so removed from these discussions, these difficult topics that we face in our everyday lives. So that's why we're confused, not because. That's why there's so much polarity, not because people are just bad or mean or stupid, but because the way society has configured itself, we've made it easier and easier to not understand the science. And the reason why I talk about atheism is because look at the stigma it gets. Oh, atheism is nihilistic. It's terrible. It's sad. It could be further from the truth. Atheism is, well, it's not atheism itself, but within the domain of atheism, you can have a very great optimistic sense of purpose in life and love and happiness. Like I was saying before, science itself is a great force for purpose for me. I love learning about the world and understanding where we come from, how we evolved, how the brain works, how the planets work. I mean, that's like exciting stuff. But yet, it's like we have access to all this amazing information. We don't even use it. It's like we've taken it for granted. We've become so accustomed to information in the information age that we've kind of removed it from ourselves. We've become removed from it. We've distanced ourselves away from it. But yeah, as an atheist, I truly enjoy my life. I've never been more content, more happy to be alive, more at peace, more blissfully happy. People say oftentimes, ignorance is bliss. I disagree. I think that there might be a moment where blissful, you might be happy, but there's a limit to that. There's a very there's a big limit on that, on happiness you can get from that. I think the more you learn, there's a point where happiness increases exponentially. It far outweighs ignorance. And, it's just that people don't take the time to really understand the world around them. They're scared by it. We've made it a case that it should be scary to dive into science and philosophy, these topics about God. That's sad. Just imagine if every person discussed about these things every day. What's our purpose? Why are we here? What are we doing here? Imagine if we really discuss these things every day instead of just blindly following whoever, whatever religion comes up to us, happens to come to our faces. Imagine if we really actually discuss these things every day in our families, at jobs, at work, at home, on the plane, anywhere, everywhere. Imagine if every person was curious and really expressed their curiosity. Imagine how better off we'd be. I wonder sometimes.